Good morning. This is Dave Jones with Storm Center Communications and GeoCollaborate. This is a Tuesday, September 27th update based on the 11 a.m. Hurricane Center update and is part of the All Hazards Consortium Sensitive Information Sharing Environment Fleet Response Working Group update for GeoCollaborate. We put these videos on the GeoCollaborate dashboard so they can be accessed by utility crews, communications companies, all that sort of thing, so they can keep updated on the latest information. It's kind of geared towards impacts to critical infrastructure. So overnight, we had a Category 3 storm make landfall in the western tip of Cuba. And this morning, we have an emergence of a Category 3 hurricane off the northern tip of Cuba. One thing about this storm is it has maintained intensity, and it is going to strengthen even more over the eastern Gulf of Mexico. Sea surface temperatures are well beyond what's needed to support hurricane development and sustainment. Temperatures are in the upper 80s, in some cases around the Keys, the lower 90s. You can see on this spectacular GOES satellite image, we've enhanced the clouds a little bit, so you can really see the eye of the storm emerging off the coast, and also those strong thunderstorms. And remember, we've talked over the last couple of days about the wind field getting more concentric circles around that intense eye wall that's been together since last night when it made landfall in Cuba. I'm going to zoom in a little bit, but first I do want to remind you that this is a phase 1 update. We expect impacts to happen within a 1 to 3 day period. We're now closing in on the 1 day period, maybe a little bit more, as we expect landfall. The National Hurricane Center has forecast landfall of Hurricane Ian around Sarasota County around 8 p.m. tomorrow night. So all preparations should be rushed to completion this afternoon. There are still storms and a lot of rain falling in South Florida. That'll be inching up towards Sarasota County and Tampa. I'll show you the radar when we get to GeoCollaborate here in just a minute. But this is a phase 1 update. The next update tomorrow will likely be phase 0 when the landfall is imminent. Let me show you now what it looks like from this vantage point of that close-in satellite sector. This is the mesoscale sector from the GOES satellite. Again, it's amazing, 22,300 miles up in space, and this geosynchronous satellite has its eyes peeled right on the hurricane. And so as Ian spins, and you can see the circulation going there, you can see the eye quite dramatically. As a matter of fact, I'll zoom in on that eye a little bit more. You can see that spectacular rotation. Those winds around that eye that you see spinning are 115 to 120 miles per hour spinning around that eye wall. The official intensity as of 11 a.m. is 115 miles per hour, and Ian is forecast to intensify to a Category 4 storm of 130 miles per hour over the next 6 to 12 hours or so. We'll be monitoring that very, very closely. Now, you can see that eye spinning. It's now emerged over the ocean, over those high 80-degree water temperatures, and it's going to continue its evolution and its maturation into an even stronger storm. Now, what I'd like to do is show you the GeoCollaborate dashboard, because this is the initial hurricane wind field. Remember, we talked about how it's getting more concentric circles around here. And I'll zoom in just a little bit. You can see my cursor right here. This is the 34 tropical storm winds. This is tropical storm force winds of 39 to 74 miles per hour. And I'll zoom in here just a little bit so you can see just how large this area is. And it's expanding with its wind field as it gets a little bit stronger. I'll back out just a little bit here so you can see the forecast path. So as Ian moves to the north, it's going to maintain its major category status. This is a 12-hour forecast here from the Hurricane Center with winds of 130 miles per hour. That is a 12-hour forecast, so that's valid at 8 p.m. this evening. And take a look at the wind gusts. Wind gusts of 160 miles per hour. This is a major hurricane, folks. If you live anywhere from St. Petersburg south to Naples, you really need to pay close attention to this update and the updates of local officials and the National Hurricane Center. This is no storm to play with. Many of you who have thought you've been through hurricanes before have never experienced the landfall of a major hurricane in Sarasota County. We have had the Charlie that made landfall as a Category 4 hurricane, a very compact one, which threw a lot of storm surge into Punta Gorda. This one is a much larger storm. It covers a much larger area. Let me show you the forecast here for the next point, and that is the 24-hour forecast valid at 8 a.m. tomorrow. Okay, I'll slip this down just a little bit further so you can see where in Florida this looks like it's going to make landfall. This is at 8 a.m. tomorrow morning, 130 miles per hour with gusts to 160 miles per hour. I'll take this off here so you can see this area where, look at how large the wind field is, and you can see how it is, it's going to cover a lot more than just Sarasota County. As a matter of fact, let me show you what the wind field superimposed onto Sarasota County looks like given the current wind field. It's likely to get a little bit larger as the storm spreads out its wind field a little bit. Probably not as much as we originally thought, because we thought in its collapsing mode as wind shear would take hold of it in a little bit further north of Tampa, that the wind field would expand out. It's still going to expand out, but it may not expand out as much because it's going to make landfall about 6 to 12 hours earlier than the Hurricane Center thought just yesterday. So now look at the difference here. You can see that area of 75 to 125, perhaps 130 mile per hour winds when the hurricane makes landfall in Sarasota County. However, the tropical storm force winds go well beyond that, well north of Tampa and all the way down past Fort Myers and down towards Naples. So there is going to be storm surge, particularly from the center point of the landfall to the right of its movement. That's where we're going to see the maximum amount of storm surge. And I'll go back to GeoCollaborate here and take it full screen. And I want you to be able to understand what storm surge means. So storm surge, first of all, before I get to the storm surge, I want to show you the hurricane warning areas that are now in effect from the National Hurricane Center and the National Weather Service. These are hurricane warnings, and that goes all the way down to Cape Coral and beyond. And then there's a tropical storm warning from this point down to the Keys. That's a tropical storm warning. Up here around the Big Bend, that's a tropical storm watch. That watch is going to be in effect until it's canceled from the National Weather Service. But of interest, take a look at this. Because the storm has such a large wind field, hurricane or tropical storm warnings have been issued for the east coast of Florida. Tropical storm warnings. And I'll get to those points here because we have storm surge warnings going on as well. But also, look at this. Points to the north along the Georgia-South Carolina line, we have tropical storm watches that have been posted because of the path, forecast track of Hurricane Ian over the Florida Peninsula. If the track takes it out a little bit further over water, it may try to regain some of its strength. We'll be keeping you posted on that. But now there are tropical storm watches issued for the coast of South Carolina and also from about North Charleston here, Myrtle Beach, south to the Georgia coastline. And then tropical storm warnings are in effect. This tropical storm warning includes southeast Georgia. That means the tropical storm force winds of 39 to 74 miles per hour are likely to happen within a 24 to 48 hour period. So those of you living in southeast Georgia, prepare for tropical storm force winds and a storm surge. I'm going to turn on the storm surge layer, and it's a peak storm surge data set here. And this storm surge, I'm going to highlight here from South Carolina into Georgia. This is a 2 to 4 foot storm surge prediction between the Savannah River to South Santee River. A 2 to 4 foot storm surge is forecast to occur. Storm surge south of that along the Palm Coast from Patrick Air Force Base to the Flagler-Volusia County line. That's a 1 to 3 foot storm surge is forecast for you in that portion of the Florida coastline. Now, what that means is if your property or coastal property is vulnerable to flooding from a 1 to 3 foot storm surge, you really need to seek shelter. And you see the graphic here that I've displayed on the right-hand side, what that storm surge looks like. You see the family standing there, 3 to 6 feet. That's about the top of the dad or perhaps even the mom's head. Anything from 6 to 9 feet is well over most humans' heads. And you can see greater than 9 feet where it's forecast is total inundation and catastrophic damage where that storm surge happens. So now I want to take you right down here to the west coast of Florida, southwest Florida. We'll start down here in the Keys. We're talking about a 2 to 4 foot storm surge. 2 to 4 foot storm surge for the Keys, either way, all the way to Boca Raton, down to Key West and the dry Tortugas, and all the way up to the Chokoloskee to East Cape Sable. This is a 4 to 6 foot storm surge that is forecast. 4 to 6 foot. Now, if we move up to the north from Bonita Beach to Jokosklee, that is 5 to 8 foot storm surge. 5 to 8 foot. Keep your eye on that graphic on the right-hand side, what that looks like with humans standing there. And then as we move up here to the other part of this major storm surge that's actually most likely to happen with the latest forecast, this is Charlotte Harbor, an 8 to 12 foot storm surge, 8 to 12 foot. That is at the top of the scale on the right-hand side of the screen and could cause devastating damage well inland around Port Charlotte, Charlotte Harbor, also any towns or villages that are around Charlotte Harbor there. So you may want to heed those evacuation orders that are being ordered in that part of the state. Now I'm going to move up a little bit further to the middle of Longboat Key. This is let me zoom in just a little bit more here so I can click on this area. There's Charlotte Harbor. And then this is the middle of Longboat Key to Bonita Beach. 8 to 12 foot storm surge is likely to happen as this major Hurricane Ian makes its way into Sarasota County. There's going to be strong winds throughout Sarasota County. If you live a mile or two inland, that is not going to protect you from these strong winds that Hurricane Ian is going to bring. That means that you should think of alternate places to go. Check out any local shelters that the county is opening up, or if you can get further west to other shelters, that would be even better. Now I'm going to move up to the north here where there's a hurricane warning that includes Tampa Bay, Clearwater, St. Petersburg. That's also St. Pete Beach, Paso Grill, Tampa. These areas here are going to see potential storm surge flooding in Tampa Bay of 5 to 8 feet. 5 to 8 feet in Tampa Bay. Now, what that means is anything over a 6 foot storm surge will cover parts of the causeway. Not the main part of the bridge, but those roads will be cut off because of a 5 to 8 foot storm surge. This is a very large eye with a very strong wall of wind around the center. It's really a very impressive, meteorologically impressive storm, but it's a very dangerous storm and one that you should heed all local officials' orders to evacuate. They can't make you evacuate, but they will not respond if you call for help during the hurricane and you're in trouble. If you're in an evacuation zone, responders will not respond if you have not evacuated. So you're taking your life into your own hands at that period of time. And we're looking at a potential long duration wind event, not as long. We don't think it's going to slow down as much as we did yesterday. But look at this 48-hour forecast. This is 8 o'clock a.m. on the 29th, so Thursday. So this is on Thursday, winds of 85 miles per hour with gusts to 105 miles per hour. And it's only over Hillsborough County and Polk County there in central Florida. So it's got a long duration wind event that's going to be impacting folks here on the west coast of Florida. And so I'm going to zoom out here just a little bit, keep that graphic up, because these storm surges are nothing to play with. These areas of hurricane warnings down around Port Charlotte, and I'll zoom down in here as well, because in Port Charlotte we have towns like Harbor Heights, we have Cleveland, we have Punta Gorda. Punta Gorda was hit terribly in Hurricane Charlie. It looks like it's going to be hit once again very hard. So any of these properties that we zoom into down here are going to be hit very, very hard. You can see all of these canals inside of these homes here. This is going to be a hard hit area in Punta Gorda. Anyone there should leave immediately and seek a safe shelter far away from Punta Gorda and this area. So these storm surges are going to be very, very large. Now, what I want to do is just remind you again of that wind field. Remember the wind field that I showed you earlier? That's the size now. Look at it superimposed over the potential landfall point and those winds. So keep that in mind as you make your decisions. There's likely to be long-term power outages, perhaps of 5-6 days or more in certain areas of Florida. However, there is great news. Remember last update and the last couple of updates, I mentioned to you that these updates through GeoCollaborate and using GeoCollaborate are for the utility industry and the emergency managers in states and counties, and also for the food, fuel, communications, telecommunications industries. We have a video now of the utility trucks that are staging in Lake City, Florida. And this is what it looks like. This was taken yesterday. This is drone footage. Look at all those bucket trucks that are lining up in Lake City, Florida, so they can respond very quickly after this storm has passed. So know that your utilities, it's called mutual assistance, they work together around the country to provide assistance to utilities, towns, and states that need it in times of disaster. All of these folks have hit the highways, and more are coming, so they can be ready to respond. Florida Power and Light is responsible for gathering all of these trucks in here, along with all of the other utilities that are responding. So you may see utilities restoring power from Louisiana, from Missouri, from Canada, from Maryland, from Virginia, or Oklahoma. Many other states, they're responding to restore power as quickly as possible. But please, what I want to make sure is that you understand power is not going to be restored immediately. That's because damage assessments have to be conducted. That means drones are going to be up in the air when the winds are calmed down enough, so they can see what roads are clogged, what power substations are impacted. And so all of that assessment has to be done before crews disperse to start to work on restoring power. And also that final energizing, the re-energizing of the lines is critical into homes. There can't be any damage to your homes where the power comes into your homes, because that could cause a fire. So please be patient with the utility crews. Be patient with the officials. They're here, they're ready to respond, and they're here to restore power for you so you can get back on your feet as soon as possible. That's the 11 o'clock update here. I'm meteorologist Dave Jones with Storm Center Communications. We will have impacts in Georgia. We will have impacts in South Carolina as well. And one thing that I forgot about, I do want to display the forecast rainfall amounts from the Weather Prediction Center over the next 7 days. So here are the forecast rainfall totals over the next 7 days. I'll go back to the full screen GeoCollaborate here, and I'll take it here a little bit more. There we go. that way. And I do want to discuss Georgia and also discuss South Carolina. Because the track of Ian is changing based on computer model guidance and the official forecast from the National Hurricane Center, we're still looking at catastrophic flooding in southeast Georgia. Now we have, as you can see, a storm surge warning that's in effect for the coastal areas of Georgia all the way up to the Savannah River. A 3 to 5 foot storm surge here, which has been updated by the National Hurricane Center. So this is a 3 to 5 foot storm surge down towards the mouth of the St. Mary's River to the Altamaha Sound. 4 to 6 feet of storm surge is possible in this area. So I believe I may have said it a little bit lower earlier on, but it's 4 to 6 feet for coastal Georgia, and then up to the mouth of the Savannah River and up here to South Santee River, 2 to 4 feet of storm surge is possible over the next 24 to 48 hours. So the storm has to make its way north, but that wind onshore flow will build up a lot of storm surge. Then in the rainfall area, what we're looking at here are rainfall totals of anywhere from 3 to 5 inches of rain in central Georgia. Now let me turn off the Hurricane Center cone forecast here. This is the cone. I'll turn that off because I want to click on these rainfall totals here. So there's 1 inch far out and then 5 inches down in southeast Georgia. So we're talking about rainfall totals of 1 to 3 inches in the Atlanta area. And then we're talking about rainfall totals of 3 to 4 to 5 inches in central and south central Georgia. These areas could be result in catastrophic flooding in south central from Albany to Fitzgerald, Hinesville, Statesboro. These areas could see some major flooding as these intense rainfalls move northward from Hurricane Ian. Keep posted to these updates because we'll be monitoring any changes, official changes of rainfall totals that the Hurricane Center makes. Actually, the Weather Prediction Center makes. The Hurricane Center predicts the track and intensity of the tropical systems, but the Weather Prediction Center is looking very closely at how much rain is going to fall. Needless to say, as I back out here and show you a wider view, you can see how much of the southeast United States is going to be impacted by this storm. All of this is more than an inch of rainfall expected. Many areas down in Florida could see anywhere from 4 to 15 inches of rain. It could be a lot more rain in central Florida than you've seen in a long, long time. This is the swath of 7 inches of rain that's expected. So anywhere from 4 to 15 inches of rain, depending on where spiral bands set up and the intensity, could be the what happens over the next 24 to 48 hours. It's not going to be a real quick mover, but it's one that's going to impact the entire state. Utility crews are standing by, and we'll give you another update later this afternoon after the 5 p.m. update. I'm meteorologist Dave Jones with Storm Center Communications. Thanks for watching.